just before we get into it, just wanted to thank our newest sponsor for the podcast, Audio Technica and Technical Audio Group. Hooked us up with 4 amazing microphones. We're sounding as crisp and clear as ever. Very nice sounding. Timber to your voice, Liam.
You are listening to the sultry sound of my voice.
Yeah. What a tech demo.
I might send that to Audio Technica.
And they've also hooked us up with a Allen and Heath ZI10 mixer. It's great. It's got a little bit of EQing. It's got all your mixing options and 4 channels out via USB as well, which is super handy when you've got you don't need to bounce people down onto, a stereo track. Highly recommend using it for podcast recording because it's super affordable and also it's, a solid piece of equipment. So yeah, big thank you to them as well. Thanks again, guys. We really appreciate you helping us out with that.
It's about the history of Stone's Throw Records, which is something that we touched on in the previous episode with Michael. He's a big fan of the record label, and it's one of those record labels that's kind of has a special place in the hearts of vinyl enthusiasts just because of the type of music and the type of artists that
are on it. It was like DJ Shadow.
I'm pretty sure
Jay
Shadow
Dilla.
was on it. Jay Dilla, probably like tons of other artists that like I'm completely neglecting. I'm still, although I've listened to a lot of stuff on the Stone's Throw Records, and I know I've seen the label's logo on a lot of records in my collection. I never really, until I became aware of this documentary and until we spoke with Michael in the previous episode, kind of realized that that record label has a real cultural significance. So there's probably a lot of other artists that I have in my collection that I'll probably look back on now and go, here's another one. I just popped into my head. MF Doom. He's another Stone's Throw record guy. Yeah. So I think from what I gather, and the documentary is called Our Vinyl Weighs a Ton. So from what I gather, it's going to be about how Stone's Throw Records is like kind of a label for people who create things from old things, like from vinyl samples.
Yeah.
So
that's cool. Like I'm in the same boat. Like I knew the name, but just kind of in my head, another label kind of thing. I didn't like in the same way that you put it.
Everyone
understand the cultural significance of it and never have taken the time to appreciate it as the entity itself rather than these individual artists.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to checking that one out and sort of learning a little bit about how significant that label actually is.
Yeah.
And I love that sort of thing. I love documentaries about. I'm sure there's going to be like plenty of scenes where these artists are like picking through their vinyl collections and pulling out particular things that are like of significance to them, and hopefully I can make some new discoveries as well while I'm watching it.
Yeah, because I don't know too many sample based artists. Like Avalanches is probably like the one that I've gotten into the most. DJ Shadow quite a bit. Jay Dilla a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man. But I'm always curious. That's why I asked in that episode, Michael, I was like, what's your favorite sample based one? Because I actually really wanted to find something new in that genre.
Exactly. Yeah.
I still have not listened to John T yet. So
no, me neither. So I mean, like you, I'm just scratching the surface with all of it. So I think that maybe if I can find it somewhere, this would be a good starting point. And also it would give me a license to hang the poster for the film on my wall. Yeah. Because I don't really want to have to like tell people that I haven't seen the movie, even though it's hanging on my wall.
Yeah.
So that's as if I didn't mention before, that's how I came across the documentary. Someone gifted me the poster to the film, and it's like a really cool sort of like illustration of all these, all the artists on the label. So there's obviously a ton of them. And the title just drew me in. So yeah,
that's cool.
So you mentioned to me that there's a music documentary that you've watched fairly recently.
Oh yeah, right before we recorded. So I've started watching. It's very old, but I'm liking it because it ages pretty fairly.
Yeah.
Is John Safran's Musical Jamboree.
And
it's a 2002 documentary series on the Australian music industry.
Yeah.
And like, it covers a broad, series of topics. I've only watched, I think I'm up to episode 4.
I remember seeing that advertised on SBS years ago.
Yeah.
Probably around the same time as South Park was airing.
Yeah.
That's probably the only reason I can think of that. Well, one of two reasons. I was probably watching SBS late at night.
Yeah.
But never got around to watching it.
Yeah.
So whereabouts did you manage to find it?
I actually signed up for a trial of that Doc Play service. It's I think it's Madman does it. It's like a streaming service just for documentaries, and I always like watching docos. So I decided that I'd give it a go, and that was one of the ones that popped up. And you know, I've never really gotten much into John Safran stuff, but always known of him, and watched it. And the first episode is about like the exclusive nightclubs in Melbourne. Have you seen the bit? There's a bit where there's this nightclub in Melbourne. I forget the name, but it's extremely exclusive. There's no sign out the front with the name or number or anything like that. It just has these iconic orange doors. And basically there's no line because the bouncers just decide whether you fit the vibe or not. And they peep through like a hole, and you know, they either tell you to go away or they invite you in. And people get turned away all the time.
You just stand there and wait for someone to go peace off, or all right, you're cool.
Exactly.
That's great.
But they're obviously ties to the music industry. So this is 2002, this documentary was made, right? So what they do is it's actually, now that I think about it, you know what a good comparison is? That it has Chase's War and Everything style stunts, but related to the music industry.
Gotcha.
And not so politically driven, but you know, in other
Safran
ways.
was a bit of a troll from what I gather in his day.
Exactly.
One of the earlier ones, one of the like the precursors to what the guys from Chaser were doing.
Yeah, this is before Chase's War, at least. They were doing other stuff at the time. But so what they decide to do is, back then, no one knew the actual identities of Slipknot. It was still kept a secret. So what they do is they get one of them to call up and pretend to be a touring management company and say, I've got these clients, Slipknot. They're pretty big in the metal world. They want to come by. Look, the thing though is they're going to be coming by after some interviews, so they'll be in their full suits and get up, and they like doing that in public. You know, it's kind of, you know, for the fans kind of thing.
Yeah.
But can we get them on the door list? Yeah, and they get them on the door list, and they film them going outside, and they put them in the orange jumpsuits, and they've all got the crazy masks on, and they get into this really exclusive nightclub. But not only that, they give them a private room. And people are going up saying like, "Oh, I love Slipknot." And
that's
they're
amazing.
signing shit, and yeah, it's pretty funny. There's a few other pranks on, like, there's kind of like one good prank per episode kind of thing.
Yeah.
And one of them involves Steve Price from back in his 3AW days. I won't spoil it because you should watch the series. It's good fun.
Will.
But it's so far. I'm only, as I said, 4 episodes in, but it's pretty great.
That Slipknot thing though, it's like one of those things that strikes me as like an idea that's kind of like so simple that you'd be like, is this gonna work? And you just try it and it works. Like going back to like the Chasers again, they tried to pull a stunt where they succeeded. They didn't try. But remember when there was like some sort of political summit going on in Melbourne or Sydney?
Was it not G20, but
G8? G8, I think, was the one. And
out in my mind,
yeah, they basically just like hired a limo and like stuck some fake flags for like a country that wasn't even in the summit on the front, and
I think
just
it was
had
Canada
some guys
or something like that.
Yeah, Canada. Yeah, I think you're right. And just had some guys in suit, just like dressed as security, walking beside the limo, and just like, just slip in the back there and see how far we get. And it worked. Like, and it's just dead simple.
Yeah,
but I mean, you'd be laughing uncontrollably, surely, like at the time.
That was, I remember when I was in high school, everyone who was in remotely into comedy was into The Chaser.
Yeah, it was a great show.
When that happened, everyone was like, came to school the next day, like, oh shit.
Yeah, it was huge news.
It was huge news at the time. Yeah.
Oh man, so good.
Because like the police commissioner or whichever department was handling having snipers on the roofs, they said something like, yeah, we could have been moments away from, shooting them. So this is like a terrible stunt kind of thing.
Yeah, a little bit silly.
And so, denouncing the prank.
Yeah.
As you would fairly do. But still, it's funny.
Yeah. But I mean, those guys in the Slipknot masks, like fair play for keeping a straight, well, not keeping a straight face, but fair play for staying in character.
Oh, they didn't stay in character too well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were like, they were going off. I think they got kicked out in the end or something like that. They didn't show anything of that, but
because you'd be like, damn, we're in, like, we've got our own room. What do we do now?
Yeah,
like
they did have video footage. Like a couple of them had like handy cams, and like they were just getting loose.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty funny. Yeah, so there's been a few albums come out that we've been saying to not talk about, so that we can at least talk about it in front of the microphones.
Yeah, that's it. Because if you get all the good bits and pieces out of the way off mic, then you've got nothing to talk about during the podcast.
Yeah.
But I suppose one of them is one that's been pretty hotly anticipated for the last, like, how many years now?
Yeah, 13 years.
13 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time between drinks.
Yeah.
So 10,000 Days was the last one then.
Yep, 2006. And so they've just had Fear Inoculum come out. So you haven't had a chance to listen to it yet?
I haven't. I've heard the title track. So I heard that when that dropped.
Yeah.
And I'm still waiting to hear the rest of the album. But you've heard it.
I've listened to it now. Yeah, it's firstly, Fear Inoculum, the title track that they put out weeks ago, I do think is the weakest song on the album. And I didn't even listen to it that many times. Like, it's just kind of,
it was quite a slow
trying
build
to pack in as much like Toolisms. It was like almost, I wouldn't call it derivative, but it was, I mean, like, they were just working,
Is it so that it does that
the usual Tools kind of sound?
Where does it fall on the track list, that song? Because it's quite a slow.
Opener.
Yeah. It strikes me as an opening track.
Exactly. And that's why I kind of didn't think too much of it at the time. And I was like, look, it is still a really good track. And in context of the full album, you can definitely appreciate it more.
Yeah,
it's one that you go back
setter.
and listen to it and know, like, it kind of,
where you would know,
where
you understand
when you
its
know where
place
it's
in the
going to
album.
take you, you kind of appreciate it a little bit more for, what else, other
Yeah,
reasons.
yeah.
But I've really only had the chance to listen to it like once and a bit, like, in the car.
So what to say about the rest of the album then?
Yeah, it's great. I do think it's their best album. There isn't many, like, it's probably the most progressive in the sense that it doesn't stick around on one kind of riff for too long or anything like that.
Yeah.
It does at points kind of have a chorus structure that, comes back, but it's you almost don't notice it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's in my opinion, it's a Tool fans album. It's not like, hi, we're Tool.
Yeah.
Like,
they're pretty well established by now.
Yeah. And I guess that kind of could be disruptive to the writing process, but I trust their writing process because, like, you're working not now in the realm of trying to, express yourself in a new way in a way that's new to people, but, you're working within the boundaries of what they are expecting of you.
Yeah.
Because of that. So yeah, I feel like there would be a lot of pressure, and I think they handled it very well and released a really solid album that satisfies their expectations. It gives something new that, like, I've seen a few comments online saying it, like, putting it down for XYZ reason, but you're always going to have that. But
when you have a 13-year gap between albums, expectations are generally going to be pretty high.
Where there's always people who there are people who genuinely disagree.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's also a lot of people who they're contrarians.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is fine, but like I do listen to it and I'm like, you would have to be very picky to not be satisfied by this.
Yeah. No,
and I think that shows because, like, the majority of people online are very positive about it. And everyone's really hyped. A lot of people saying it's their favorite Tool album. For me, it's the most I've enjoyed a Tool album. More than Lateralist, and I love that album. I know a lot of people's is Enema as their favorite album. which, yeah, if you're into that kind of style, it might not take the top spot for you. Let's say, because of the reasons why you probably enjoy it and more a lot.
I mean, so for myself,
you've only recently kind of delved into them.
Yeah, like I've known about Tool for a long time. I even was lucky enough to catch some of their set at the Big Day Out in I think it was 07.
Oh, cool.
But never grew to appreciate them until you and I started talking about this new upcoming album.
Yeah.
When the news first dropped about that. And I managed to get a hold of a copy of Lateralus, which I've listened to probably I've listened to it a couple of times today and probably a couple of times yesterday. So 4 times in the last 2 days, trying to sort of get a handle on it. And I've already said this to you, but I'm thoroughly enjoying it to start off with. I think that it's one of those albums that every song is kind of really well intertwined. So the whole album feels like one long experience from start to finish. So there's that to say about it. And also each track kind of builds so slowly, piece by piece, that before you even realize it, without even thinking about it, the song has swelled into full swing pretty much. And it really, when you realize that, it surprises you. So even though it could be perceived as slow and building and boring, it still has moments that catch you unaware as well, which I thought was great.
Yeah.
So
I think now that
it's got quite a psychedelic feel to it as well, I guess, but more less like a 60s LSD psychedelic and more of and this is probably due to the artwork, but I think it was Alex Gray who does the artwork. Yeah. So it's got that kind of psychedelic vibe to it.
Yeah.
With the way that they play with time signatures and just the whole flow of the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that, I mean, I have heard Undertow as well, and Undertow is kind of more like a depraved rock and roll album. Or not rock and roll, it's a depraved kind of alternative kind of metal album.
Exactly.
Which is kind of cool. It's got an unsettling mood and unsettling vibe. I haven't heard Enema, unfortunately. I haven't heard 10,000 Days either. So, but I'm looking forward to checking those other ones out.
Yeah. I think you'll like the new one for sure, considering what you said about Lateralus.
Yeah, if it's anything like Lateralus, then I'm looking forward to it. And the title track, Fear Inoculum, really had a Lateralus-y vibe as well.
Oh, so Andy coming over.
Yeah. Actually, I read something interesting about Tool today as well. So you're familiar with Ministry, the band?
Yeah. The industrial band.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. So Al Jurgensen, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He's claiming responsibility for Tool becoming a psychedelic band.
Yeah, I saw that because he reckons he spiked them with acid one time or something.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe that's a well known, it's probably well known by now. But he reckons he used to put 2 drops of acid in his bottle of whiskey, drink half on stage, and then apparently passed his bottle off to Maynard and one of the other members of Tool. And according to him, they were up for 2 or 3 days tripping out and yada, yada.
No matter what band you created by that, that's still such a shit thing to do that I think you're still a dickhead.
Yeah, I mean, I love Ministry, but I don't think Al Jurgensen is a very solid dude.
I remember one time back in my days when I used to pirate music. Now I just stream it.
Yeah.
But I remember that when I was curious about Ministry, I went to go find a torrent and on the Pirate Bay, and there was a discography torrent. And the description on the Pirate Bay was this story by the guy who uploaded it. And he was like, this is me uploading the discography of Ministry because, and he goes into the story about how he was working as bar staff at a venue that he once performed at. And he was the biggest douchebag to him. And so he was like, fuck you. I'm putting your discography up online.
Yeah. He seems like the sort of person who's probably burned a few people in his day. And, I'm disappointed in him as well because I actually had tickets to see Ministry. It was maybe 2017, if I recall correctly, when they'd announced a tour and they were going to play, I think it was at the Astor or something like that. would have been a wild gig. Like I wouldn't love to see Ministry, but yeah, they like cancelled that one at the last minute. And upon finding that out, I also found out that they'd also cancelled their previous tour Down Under as well at the last minute. So yeah, kind of a shitty thing to do if you ask me, but
yeah, he does seem.
But I mean, who knows? There might have been legitimate personal reasons or legitimate reasons for the tour cancellation. Like, I don't know, but they certainly didn't make them public. If they were, they just kind of cancelled them without any explanation, which kind of sucks.
Yeah.
What are we talking about next?
Well, another album that came out is this one was a few weeks ago. King Gizzard, Infest the Rat's Nest, which is their thrash metal album.
Yeah, so you're a massive Giz head. What are your thoughts on this one?
I really like it. I haven't listened to it in full for a fair while since, but I did smash it quite a few times when it first came out, and I really enjoyed it. It does feel like an homage to metal, various metal kind of movements throughout history.
Yeah. That's what
especially
they do,
like new wave of British heavy metal is like probably the most obvious one on the album. Like there's a couple of songs that sound like Judas Priest or Motorhead.
Yeah.
But yeah, because you've never really like gotten much into them.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on it coming in from that angle?
Well, I mean, obviously I'm familiar with the different stuff that they've done in the past. Like, and this is like a massive shift in direction for them. I've enjoyed it. Like, I thought it is quite enjoyable. I think what they've done is like they've kind of, it's similar to their other albums in that they've taken, you know, like a genre, or they've taken not just a genre, but they've taken like different influences, obviously things that they're listening to and enjoying at the time, and they're applying it to their own music. And you know, they're, like you said, they're paying homage to something, which is what they sort of do in every album. So in that sense, like this is, I think, like their homage to like heavy metal. I'm definitely getting Motorhead vibes. Like his vocals kind of remind me of a cross between like Lemmy and Al from Sleep, the vocalist from Sleep. He's got that real monotone, kind of like almost like like monk chanting.
The more I think about it, the more it makes sense.
Like what are those? I don't know. They're like Tibetan monk chanting kind of style vocals, you know.
Funny you say that because I think it's the other guitarist Joey. He knows how to do that, and there's a couple of King Gizzard tracks on other albums
where he does it.
It's throat singing. I don't know what region it's from.
Yeah,
but,
somewhere in the mountains.
Yeah, I think it's like Tibetan or something like that. And it's
trippy. Hey,
it's cool. I think it's Nuclear Fusion. There's a track that it appears on in the studio albums, but
yeah, I'd like to go back and hear that. Like I think it's all about like channeling frequencies and like, you know, it's quite effective. And I mean, the vocal style is cool. Like, you know, it's old school. I don't think it's going to be winning any like metal album of the year album, you know, awards in my opinion. But I think like standing up against like all the rest of their discography, I think it's fantastic. So I think it as a standalone sort of like foray into that world, I think it's fantastic and they've done really well. I hope that they do something different next though.
Yeah, definitely. Like I wouldn't want them to do another thrash album. It's like, you know, that's
I think I
like
done
the journey of going on like, it's this kind of album and now it's this kind of album.
Yeah, that's it. And they've done it well. So I wouldn't want them to undo that work. They've definitely flown the flag, I reckon, pretty well on that one.
Yeah. And they've got a few other metal ones, like Murder of the Universe, but this is the most metal one. Like,
this is
significantly.
Like jab a fork in your eye, like in your face kind of metal.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I did on my first listen.
Jabbed a fork in your eye. Yeah. It does make you want to do that. Like not in a horrible way, just in a really extreme way.
I do like the theme of the album though. Like the first half's kind of like, you know, Earth's fucked kind of thing.
There is no planet B.
The result of climate change and all that. And then the second half is about, first half, the second track, going back, I liked the theme of Mars for the Rich.
Yeah,
And
Mars
like,
for the
you
Rich
know,
was my favorite tune.
I think it's a really cool kind of narrative that track, because it's, you know,
It's basically it's the whole concept of the
I think
the
Stu
lower
tapped
class are
something
left behind.
Yeah, that was like, oh, why hasn't anyone done this before?
Yeah.
I'm sure there are like sci-fi texts out there. I'm sure it's been done a million times. However, like, you know,
they do apply some really cool narratives to their music though. I like that.
Yeah, because I think Stu the singer, he's really into reading like sci-fi and all that. Because on there, What's in My Bag, he was like, I don't want to carry records, so you got t-shirts and a couple of books.
Yeah,
just talked about them instead.
Yeah.
So, I think he's quite into his
quite into his and fiction, Lovecraft and stuff. Yeah. No, there's a lot, like, you know, so much amazing influence in that sort of music. In that sort of fiction as well. Like Lovecraft, man, is, I'm sure, like influenced a ton of metal bands. Would have to have done. Like, he was like the original goth. Lovecraft, really.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, him and Edgar Allan Poe, I guess you can't discount him. But Lovecraft was like, you know, I love how he kind of painted he didn't paint a picture, and that's what kind of made him so, like, his fiction so terrifying. Like, it was the stuff that you couldn't see, or, you know, the stuff that he didn't describe, like the stuff he left to the reader's imagination that kind of, you know, made it terrifying.
Yeah, I have to admit, I've not really read any Lovecraft like properly, and I really need to.
Yeah, there's you can get one of those Puffin book like Lovecraft collections.
I
for about
actually
$25.
I've got a book sitting on the counter there. That was given to me by my old housemates Kerry and Charlie. Shout outs to them. I used to live with them back in the day before Kerry moved to Melbourne, and Charlie as well. And it's a collection. One of them is Lovecraft, so I need to get around to reading it.
Yeah, you should. It's quite an easy read, really, for like the age that it is as well.
Yeah,
it's very, very like very accessible read. I think. Cool. Yeah, you'll enjoy it. So another album that came out recently, which is one that I've only heard one track from, which was one that they released before the album came out. It's the new OC's album.
This one's been a bit divisive.
Face Stabber. I love the title of that one.
Yeah, it's in your face,
stabbing ya.
And interesting that they both came out on the same day.
Yeah,
considering how like kind of closely linked people perceive those two acts.
OC's and King Gizzard.
Yeah.
And
so, you know, their fan bases quite often cross over.
Oh, 100% they would. Yeah, so, they have to.
Interesting that they released on the same day. Like, I'm sure it was just a funny coincidence and they just rolled with it or something like that.
Honestly, who knows? I'm sure they must have known, because I'm sure those guys know each other. They'd have to.
Oh, yeah. Flightless brings them on their tours now and such. So, yeah. And I think they kind of just like don't encourage it, because there is like quite a similarity.
Yeah,
that's the kind of vibe I get, is that just like we both do the two drummers thing, so let's just kind of
that's it. Yeah,
you know, I'm sure behind the scenes they're great and all that. And
I'm sure
have
they
beers
are.
And
there's no
as you
doubt
do
that,
as a musician, but
I'm sure Giz have been heavily influenced by OCs. You know, OCs have been pretty much doing that for like since the early 2000s.
I think it's pretty well documented that Stu used to be quite a bit of a John Dwyer fan. So,
yeah. I mean, John Dwyer really, you can trace a lot of it back to him. I mean, Ty Segall was kind of like he was an underling
prodigy.
He was an underling of John Dwyer, and
because he used to like sneak into the clubs to play and all that.
Yeah, he was much younger, but he was obviously supremely talented, and showed something and something enough for Dwyer to go, okay, we'll release your debut album, and look where he is now. He's, you know,
I'd say he's probably more popular than the OCs.
Yeah, I mean, and prolific. Oh well, he at least as prolific. You know, I mean, OCs are pretty. You know, they're like all these bands Giz, Ty Segall and his numerous bands and projects, and OCs, they are all very high output bands.
Yeah.
It's one thing I've noticed. I don't know whether it's just like a thing.
It's like
within the
that's an
genre.
expectation. Yeah, I was about to say that. Yeah.
Because I mean, these people obviously have nothing better to do.
Yeah. I mean, is it because like
and I'm very
the whole
jealous.
implications? It's like a trend that's just started because garage bands, and it's like the expectation that you're recording it on a 4-track cassette is there. So, if you don't have quality, you got to go the quantity route.
Yeah,
and
who
so,
knows, honestly.
And so now that it's just impressive now because the quantity things like stayed, but the quality has crept up with like the age of digital recordings and
that's
everything.
True. That's very true. You can really like bang out a professional sounding recording.
We could record an album in this room and it would sound you wouldn't have to worry about it being a kind of a dent in the sound of your album that would deter people from enjoying it.
It's impossible to make like lo-fi black metal now. You just can't. You couldn't even do it on your iPhone.
Yeah.
So it's what a time to be alive. Everything's so cold and clinical.
Yeah.
So damn easy. Can't suffer anymore while you're making your music. But back to the album.
So you haven't had a chance to listen to it yet?
Just that one track that they released, and like I thought it was pretty damn cool. Like it's gone in a real jazzy direction, and
Yeah, it's probably like, because I've listened to it, it does kind of sit as an outlier on the album. It's a real mixed bag. That's the thing in it. Like the fan review, like the people who love the OCs and like, that would identify, say, as an OCs fan are pretty much all enjoying it. The critics are kind of like, this is inconsistent and such, which it feels like a mixed bag. There is no consistent kind of thread, whatever that may be in sound or theme or whatever, that kind of feels like it strings it all together.
It's a bit of a mishmash.
It just feels like a compilation of, jams that they've done. However, they're really good jams. Some people don't like how long the jams go on for, but I want long jams when I'm listening to the OCs. That's why I put the OCs on.
That's very true.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm sure if you're pumping through 10 albums in a day, trying to review it, and this song's going on and on and on, and you're just like, man, I got to get to the next album. Like,
yeah, exactly. I really love the direction they've gone in recently too. Like they've sort of moved away from, like, they've still got a lot of it in their music, but they've moved away from being like a predominantly like quite twangy, like high end kind of toppy, kind of jangly, like piercing guitar sound to a lot more like, they've gotten heavier. They seem to have tuned down a little bit. They're using different tones. They're using like vintage organs to effect as well to make the songs heavier in a way that like, bands like, Deep Purple used to do, and they're getting proggier and, I like that. I think they're going in a really cool direction. I thought Orc was like the peak really of that. Like Orc would have to be my favorite album.
That's not an album I've explored much. And I need to.
I think that's the first.
The tracks I really enjoy on it, I really enjoy.
Yeah. The whole album is solid. And that's like the first album of theirs that I heard that really felt like cohesive, and it was definitely the first one that I'd heard that was like heavy as well. Like there's definitely, in fact, there's a track on that album that I thought long before this new Giz came out that was like, I was like, damn, that's a metal track. And he does that same vocal style as well. So you'll hear the song when you listen to the album and you'll go, oh, this is the song he was talking about, because it sticks out like a dog's balls.
I played it in full a couple of times, but not really, like, obviously when I'm doing something else.
Yeah.
Not really giving it the attention it deserves.
I'll send you a link to the track and you'll go, oh, wow, this is actually like, this sounds like it could have come off the new Giz album.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the thrash riffing in it, but it's quite heavy and in your face, and it's definitely got that vocal style. But like, credit to Giz, they've like made a whole album out of that sound and done a pretty good job.
Yeah, and made it them still.
Yeah,
that kind of production.
It's unmistakably them. Yeah,
yeah,
which is cool.
And like that I I think it's since, pardon me, Gumboot Soup that they've really kind of focused on the recording quality of their sound. Because by the time that album had come out, I was starting to kind of be like, sick of being disappointed by the mix. And I was like, that's the kind of one thing that lets me down, is it's like, you know, I want to be able to put headphones on and listen to this, but like, you know, it's not that kind of experience.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to listen for the subtle fidelities.
Yeah, the panning and, you know, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, they do a lot of panning, a lot of cool effects in that sense, but it's always a really like lo-fi mix. And they dropped the lo-fi in the last like year or two and like really focused on, you know, having a nice crisp recording. And this is the clearest they've sounded and well produced a mix. So
yeah,
and Fishing for Fishies is pretty similar in that kind of standard of quality. So I've been relieved that they've done that, because right as I think I'm out, they pull me back in.
Yeah, 2 albums in a year. Like, honestly, it feels like Fishing for Fishies that only just came out, really. And here we are talking about the next one. So
yeah, well, they have a secret track in the game that they released. So they dropped a game.
I remember you saying, yeah,
it's like a kind of Quake clone kind of thing, but there's a secret room and there's a cube floating in the air and it says Tyson on there. Pretty much all synths from memory. There might be actual acoustic drumming in it, but for all intents and purposes, it's an electronic track.
Yeah, that's what I thought when I heard it.
Yeah, and it's very jazzy, and like there's like a 20-second snippet in there where I was like, this could almost fool me for being like an early Fly Low.
I remember you telling me that. Yeah, I was just gonna say
kind of, you know, beat that he produced or something like that from, you know, earlier on. But yeah, it's pretty cool. But apparently, people I read online were saying like, "What's Tyson? Like Mike Tyson? Like what is it?" But there's a big conglomerate corporation of sorts that's like Tyson Industry or whatever it is, Tyson something, and they are responsible for a lot of animal exports, and their ethics of the company has been under question for a long time, as, you know, are they abusing animals and such. And Stu, the singer, he's a vegetarian or a vegan, even possibly. So he's, you know, obviously Fishing for Fishies is very like, you know, don't fish are friends, not food kind of
gotcha.
Vibes. And so I feel like this is an extension of that. So
yeah, well, there you go.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether that's just going to be like a little oddity that they leave out there and just not explore any further.
Just let it fester for a while.
Yeah.
See what kind of conversation they can drum up out of it. So I guess that just about wraps it up for this one.
Yeah. There's not been any albums on my radar other than those that's been released in the last couple of weeks that I've paid a lot of attention to that I feel like I can talk about. So.
Yeah. Look, I'll have some stuff to talk about.
Is there anything coming up album release wise? Sorry, what we
album release wise? I've kind of just been going backwards, like trying to pick up stuff that I missed on first release at the moment. So I've got some albums on order. I'll talk about some of them in the next episode, because there's one in particular that I'm really looking forward to it arriving, because it's like quite different in the landscape of music at the moment. It's a real nice fusion of two genres that you might not expect. So
yeah,
I'll talk about that in the upcoming episode.
Yeah, sweet, cool man.
Right on.